So in Pokemon, there are hundreds of different diverse creatures to choose from. 893 pre-Cone Tundra to be exact, and out of these 893 Pokemon, some were bound to be forgettable. One Pokemon I think is probably one of the most forgettable is the Pokemon Chingling. So Chingling was a Pokemon introduced in Generation 4 as a pre-evolution to another notable forgettable Pokemon, Chimecho, so it already did not have that going for it. I also think that this Pokemon was unpopular for other reasons, because in Generation 4 they introduced a lot of evolutions for older Pokemon like Magmar and Electabuzz, and these cooler evolutions overshadowed the fact that there were also a fair amount of baby Pokemon added in Gen 4, and even out of these baby Pokemon, Chingling was kind of overshadowed by the likes of Badoo, Bonsly, and Mime Jr. So I took it upon myself to see if this musical Pokemon could take on the greatest feat a Pokemon can hold, a challenge run. So I decided to see what it's like to beat Pokemon Platinum with only Chingling. And also some added rules for the run is obviously only using Chingling in battles, and no healing items so I can't just heal stall my way to victory. So the run starts off like any other. We watch the news and see that our local professor is back in the region, and me and the hyper neighbor boy think it's a good idea to go bug him into giving us a Pokemon, so we set off to meet him, and right as Barry's about to beat his long jump record across the grass, the professor stops us. He then asks us a few times if we love Pokemon, to which we reply yes out of fear, and he offers to give us some. So I have the lovely choice of 3 Chingling. Now at first it seems like it's just grab the first one and go, but to be smart, I chose the Chingling in the Piplup slot specifically, so Barry would end up getting a Chimchar. See, Chingling is a pure Psychic type, and if Barry's to later have an Infernape, I'll have the type advantage against his ace, and looking at Chingling's stats, I'll need an advantage here and there. Then right after we get our Pokemon, Barry challenges me to a battle in which we come across the fact that Chingling's move pool is not the best in the world, so with only Rapid at our disposal, we had no other choice than to spit bars and hope that Chimchar spammed a leer and didn't scratch us once. And that almost happened until the last turn I needed one final Rap to win, and he scratched, shaking out my Chingling entirely. This was Chingling's first of many losses, but we're not going to let that stop us. After this, we went with Barry to the lake to meet the leader of an evil team and then set out to the professor's lab. Along the way, I tried to fight a level 2 Bidoof who beat the life out of Chingling, and I had to run all the way from my house to the professor's, this time avoiding all the Bidoofs. In Rowan's lab, he decided to give us a Pokédex after congratulating me on evolving my Chingling, which I didn't do, and letting me name it. After some thought, I remembered Chingling looks an awful lot like an automaton, so we named it that and took our automaton on our way to victory. Right after leaving, Rowan took pity on us for the choice I made and gave me something that will later be the saving grace of the run, the TM Return. From here, I did the tutorial stuff with Dawn and used Return on Chingling so I could grind up some levels in the grass. Then I worked my way to Jubilife where I met up with an international cop, delivered a package to Barry, beat up some school kids with my Chingling, and then did what every child should do and find clowns for a complete stranger in return for a Fitbit. And then after this we went up to Route 204 where we did a little grinding against some trainers in preparation for our rematch with Barry. This time Barry had 2 Pokemon and one was his bird who growled until my automaton could barely return any damage. I did manage to feint it, but his Chimchar still remained, and easily stopped my Chingling. I decided to just try again, and through a mix of luck, I defeated him. Without healing, I tried to grind up on a nearest trainer, and lost. And then spent more time grinding in the grass and other trainers until I learned the move Confusion at level 14, which will be my primary move for most of the run. I then entered Oreburgh and found the gym leader back in the mine. I told him my Chingling was going to kick his rocks in, and he returned to the gym. I went straight to take on Rourke where I found out his Cranidos has Pursuit and would destroy my Chingling after tanking a Confusion. So after a few failed attempts, my Chingling was able to get lucky and take out his Cranidos, and then defeat his Onix easily to secure the first badge. From here, we ended up at the Valley Windworks where we were tasked with taking back the place because Team Galactic's meddling. Since their teams mostly consisted of Zubats, I was able to defeat them all easily with just Confusion. But then came Mars. So her Purugly has Feint Attack, and my Chingling did not take that so well. So we had to grind up a bit until I was a few levels higher and would be able to take out Purugly. I then headed through Eterna Forest and came to the town with my next biggest challenge. No, not the gym leader, I was able to beat Gardenia on my second attempt thanks to confusion. The real challenge was in the Galactic base with the second commander Jupiter, and her ace, a level 23 skunk tank, with the move Night Slash. Once again, a dark type move put a halt in my path. At this point, Chingling was only level 31 and would easily get 2-shot by Skunk Tank, before I could do even half damage. On top of that, Skunk Tank is a dark and poison type, so I couldn't even use confusion on this. I would have to rely on my other moves in Return, Uproar, and Astonish. After a few more attempts, I realized Return was doing more than Uproar, so that was my best bet. And I also knew that I can make Return stronger through the power of friendship. So I ran back and forth till Chingling and I were best friends, and Chingling was also level 38. We tried again, I failed a few times, but almost won once and thought this is possible. So I kept trying with Chingling until Chingling was destined on revenge and crit its way to victory. So after I beat Jupiter, I was done recording for the time being, and when I came back, I made the mistake of forgetting to record the next segment. So in short, I made my way down the cycling road, grabbed the TM for double team in Weeward Cave, and then got through Mount Coronet to enter Hearthome City. From here, I was up against the Ghost Gym, and Chingling being a psychic type, I was at a big disadvantage. But I also found out that in Amity Square, I can grab the Ghost Plate, boosting my Astonish, so I did just that. And once at Fantina, it was not too hard between a mix of Chingling's high level and Astonish flinching. Also, Confusion was able to one-shot her Haunter. Fantina only took 3 attempts, way less than I anticipated. From here, I went through Salacian Town and grabbed items like the Mind Plate and the TM for Shockwave. As I got to Veilstone City, that's where I realized I was not recording the whole time, so sorry about that. Once in Veilstone, I was all ready for the gym. Chingling destroyed all the fighting types with Confusion alone, and Maylene stood no chance, and was the first gym leader I beat on my first attempt. A personal victory for my Chingling. We then helped Dawn get her Pokédex back from Team Galactic, and she was out for blood and had her Clefairy use Dark Void on the opponent, which I could not help but laugh at. Me and Chingling then headed to Pastoria for the next gym match, and I was not overwhelmingly concerned about this match since I did pick up a few TMs like Grass Knot and Shockwave that I could put on Chingling if needed, and with Chingling's level being high at this point, I was not too worried. After sweeping Barry, I took out all of the gym trainers and tried my first attempt against Crasher Wake, only to get walled by his Gyarados. So this time, I popped on Shockwave and his team could not stop me. Even Quagsire fell to a few confusions, claiming my 5th badge. I then had to deal with Team Galactic after their attack in Pastoria, and I also met up with Cynthia where she gave me a bottle of duck spray and told me to go spray all the ducks. So I then headed over to Route 210 to do just that. I then moved on to Celestic Town with no real trouble since I defogged the route, and I did pick up the TM for Shadow Ball for later. Here, I was a little worried about the match against Cyrus and his dark types, but Sneasel only had Ice Punch in this battle and Murkrow got one hit by Shockwave, so it was actually an easy win. From here, it was on to Canalave City, where we had another match with Barry and I won with only 6 HP left. From here, I took strength from Riley on Iron Island and left and began to try the Canalave Gym. At this point in the game, Confusion was not cutting it, and I was not able to get past a necessary trainer and her Scizor, so I had to do some preparing. Back when I was in Veilstone, I grabbed the coin case knowing that later I was going to need to grind some money for the Game Corner prizes, since one of them is the TM29 for Psychic. After stealing the old people on Route 212's retirement money, I had enough coins to help me get the TM for Psychic and the TM for Hidden Power. In Chingling's case, its hidden power is actually Bug, so that might be helpful against dark types later. With Psychic and a few more levels, I was able to get all the way to Byron, and for our match I had to reset a few times thanks to Magneton paralyzing me, but after I did not get paralyzed, I was strong enough to 2-shot everything with Psychic, claiming me my 6th gym badge. Barry then invited us to the Canalave Library to meet up with Rowan and Dawn to discuss Pokemon evolution and legendary Pokemon, as conveniently Team Galactic sets off another bomb and it's up to me to go to Lake Valor and see what's up. Once I get there, I get past the Grunts and the Magikarp trail and meet up with Saturn, where he, unlike the other admins, did not pose a threat thanks to Psychic. Then, because side characters conveniently can't do anything right, I had to go to Lake Verity and stop Mars again. She was not as hard as last time since Chingling's level and Stab Psychic let me plow through her team. After defeating Mars, it was time to go check up on Barry and Sinnoh Point, so I set off through Mount Coronet and trailed through the snowy routes, and Chingling may have fainted a few times to some trainers, but it was mostly smooth sailing. Before I could deal with Barry, I had to first take on the Sinnoh Point gym to be able to use Rock Climb. And Candace was not as hard as I thought it might be. I did win with 6 HP, but most of the damage was from hail, so I won first time nonetheless, and I thought that was pretty impressive for Chingling. Then I got to Lake Acuity to find out Barry got swept by Jupiter. I can't blame him since I've been there, but she told us her plans before she left, so we knew we had to go to the Galactic base in Veilstone next. Once there, we met up with Looker, who somehow got in a hold of the Galactic storage key, so me and him played spies and snuck into their base. The grunts are very easy with my access to moves like Shockwave and Psychic, so I took out everything in my path until I got to Cyrus. This time though, his team was a lot harder. Sneasel still had no access to dark moves, but his Golbat and Murkrow evolved and both knew dark moves, so I had to reset a few times to get this win. But after this I had to rematch Saturn, who I swept again, reminding him why he's the worst of the commanders, and then setting the lake spirits free. Then it was on to save the world with only a baby Pokemon. So we made our way up Mount Coronet to the Spear Pillar, and I had to take on both Mars and Jupiter in a double battle with Barry. So, for some reason, Barry chose to use Munchlax as his first Pokemon, and it was not as jacked as my unevolved Pokemon, so it actually cost me the match. So when I re-challenged this fight, I chose to whip out my big brain and feinted Barry's Munchlax first turn. This was so he'd bring out his Rapidash, which had a way better move pool and was able to actually help me more in the fight. It still was a close fight in the end, but I was able to get past Skuntank, which was more of a hassle when he had Munchlax. But then Cyrus tried to play God, Giratina said no. We then had to stop both Cyrus and Giratina before the world ended, and I have a Chingling. So it was time to trail through the Distortion world, where I'd have to come across one of the hardest battles this far. Since Cyrus is the equivalent of a Dark-type gym leader, I was not doing well. If I got hit about 3 times in the whole battle, I'd probably lose. So I had to pull up my big brain and remove Psychic in return for Double Team. Since I was not using Psychic in this match at all, I opted to delete it knowing I could grind money at the game corner and then buy back a TM for Psychic. And I also needed Shadow Ball for the Elite Four since I could not get another TM of it. After a few more attempts, I was able to get lucky and have Cyrus missed most of his attacks, so I could secure the win. Then I went up to Giratina, Shadow Balled it in the face, and left the Distortion world happy to never return. At this point, it was time to take on the final gym, so I rushed over to Sunyshore to take on Vulcaner. I had a few attempts where I got paralyzed and it was not going well, but then I finally got a match where I got all high damage rolls on his first 3 Pokemon, one-shotting them, and then getting an easy 2-shot on Electivire for the win. Then I had one final challenge before the Elite Four in the Victory Road, where I plowed through it with relative ease. I did run out of PP on Psychic at the end and ended up losing to a trainer, having to rerun the cave all again. But once I was out, it was time to face the hardest challenge. In my final match with Barry, I won with relative ease, and then I started on doing some last minute prep before the Elite Four, like buying extra TMs to swap out during my challenge. And with my level 95 Chingling, we started the challenge. Now, the Elite Four member Aaron is normally seen as not the worst hurdle in many Platinum Challenge runs, but with only a Chingling, fighting bug types that resist your stab is not fun, and Chingling lost at least 25 times, and I tried a few different strats. I first thought that Scizor would be the worst Pokemon on his team, so I ran Bulk Berry and gave it Natural Gift, and then I ended up having more trouble with Drapion, who is a Poison and Dark type, resisting my Psychic entirely. For this, then I tried running Prism Berry and Nature Gift to give it a Ground type move, and that didn't even do half. So I then resorted to running Double Team in return. I learned that Scizor would actually feint to a Psychic boosted by the Odd Incense after 2 hits, so then I just had to make sure every hit missed. And I kinda just hoped spamming return on Drapion would be enough, and after many attempts, I did it. I did not count, but it probably was at least 40 total resets before I beat Aaron. So after this hurdle, I put on Grass Knot instead of return, and Bertha was beat on my first attempt. A big refresher after Aaron. I then thought Flint would be an easy battle, but again, he posed a challenge. I put Return back on instead of Double Team since I just needed to overpower Flint, and I was just getting burned a lot, so I just kept attempting until I got lucky and he missed a few overheats. But not as annoying as Aaron by any means. For Lucine, I swept his entire team just by spamming Shadow Ball, and most of his Pokemon fell to just 1 or 2, and there was no issue here. So on to Cynthia. Chingling had worked his whole career for this, and it saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and it was ready to win. But first, we had to lose. Over, and over, and over. Because lucky us, Cynthia's first Pokemon is Spiritomb, the no weakness Ghost Dark type who completely walls my Chingling. This one Pokemon makes Aaron's team look like a Route 1 trainer. I lost so much to this Spiritomb. I basically had to spam Double Team and hope it missed a Dark Pulse or Shadow Ball because both moves put Chingling under half, and if that happened, I would be knocked out by our other mons easily. There were a few runs where I'd get lucky and maybe get past Cynthia's Spiritomb with half health, but again, getting cleaned up by the rest of her Pokemon, I needed to have a particular set of circumstances to happen. I basically needed to make sure I got past Cynthia's Spiritomb with full health and a couple double teams up, so then I could double team on her Lucario a few times, and then not get hit by the rest of her Pokemon. I got close a few times, but I still had to wait till I got the perfect run. Finally, after a lot of trial and error, Chingling got his break. Once past Spiritomb still having full health and a few double teams up, Chingling took on Lucario, and after tanking a Shadow Ball, it then knocked out Lucario with a few Psychics. Garchomp luckily missed a lot of Dragon Rushes, and I was able to whittle it away with Psychic. Melodic went down to 2 Grass Knots and missed a Mirror Coat. Roserade stood no chance against Psychic, and Togekiss, though it got in an Aura Sphere thanks to it never missing, it was not enough to stop 2 Psychics and it finished it off, making Chingling the new Sinnoh champion. So after doing this, what are my final thoughts? Well, for one, don't attempt this run. Was it fun? Sometimes. Was it hard in some areas and easy in others? Yes. But the Elite Four was not enjoyable, and I'm glad my little automaton proved, even though it's forgettable, it still can be the best. So if you liked this video, drop a like, and if you're new, consider subscribing. It would mean a lot. Other than that, thanks for coming out.